Okay. Good morning. Good morning. I'm starting to let everybody in. So we can get started in just a little bit. So I'm hoping that everybody has a great weekend. I'm basically just going to wait a few minutes just to get everybody in. I'm getting out of the country, so the weather here is beautiful. The people here are beautiful. We're doing some work here to try to get them on the right track, just as I'm trying to get everybody in the United States on the right track as well. All righty. So if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up, just so I won't be talking to myself for several minutes. Yeah, thank you. All right. And I'm going to repeat this next announcement several times during this session. If you have an appointment for today and you received your questionnaire and you filled it out, wonderful. I can record all that data on your chart. I will also be calling you this afternoon or tomorrow, because I got a bunch of people who are on here, in order to make sure that you understood certain things, to make sure you don't have any questions. Okay. And that is indeed how we're kind of forming these little telemedicine type visits. A lot of people are on here because of they've been invited here, or they begin to follow us on Instagram. I just got the Instagram started with the help of a good colleague of mine, I believe, who may be on here, Mr. Vance Dotson. Give him a shout out. He's a good friend as well as a disciple. I'm trying to get him healthier because I need him around a lot longer. So again, as we wait for people to come in, I'm going to give you a few announcements and get things all squared away. I'm going to also be asking you a bunch of questions as well. Not difficult questions, but just to get an idea as to where you think you are as far as your health is concerned. Are you healthy? Or are you not? Or are you metabolically sick? Okay. So going back, for those people who are here for an appointment, if you have an appointment for today, I need to have your name and your date of birth in the chat box. Okay. Directed towards me. Okay. It's a low turnout today. Let's see why. I don't know what's the turnout is low because somebody changed the settings to have everybody register. I don't usually have everybody register. I just let everybody in. Okay. All right. So your name and your date of birth in the chat box. Okay. The second thing I'm going to want you to do is to answer a few questions. The first question is this: if you have an appointment for today, did you get the questionnaire that came along with your appointment? You got the questionnaire and you filled it out, then that's a good thing. And so we have your data. Okay. If you didn't get the questionnaire, then I have to ask you a few questions during this call. Okay, good. So everybody so far has filled it out. If everybody has filled it out, there's one no. The Zoom link wasn't in today's invite. I had to go to an old email. So the Zoom, to address that particular issue, that the Zoom link is not going to be in every email on every Saturday. This Zoom link is pretty much the same as always. So every Saturday at 9 o'clock, I want you to come back and visit us. So just remember that, or keep the old email. The Zoom link is always the same. All right. So yes, please come back every weekend because we're having something new every weekend. And I meant to put this slide in here, but I didn't, because one of the things that, let me see if I can find it. One of the Benjamin Franklin quotes. Okay. Let me see. Is one of my favorite quotes, and one of the reasons that that I think that we're here today And I want you to continue to come back, okay? Let's see. I'm just kind of talking just a little bit to just get a few more people in, so I want to repeat everything all over again, okay? While we're waiting, let me have everybody to go ahead and put everybody to go ahead and put in their keto meter results. And I want to see how many people have their keto meter, and let's see what your results are. Okay. I don't have one. Okay. All right. We'll talk about that in a second. For those of you who don't have one, don't worry about it. For those of you who do, I'd like to see if you're in ketosis and how we're coming along as far as that's concerned. Okay. And then the one of the things that I wanted to do is to again get ready to go to my slide. So we got people who have a 20 on the keto meter, excellent result. 14 is excellent, 16 is excellent. I don't have one, I don't have one. Okay. So I'm going to show you on the slide presentation where to get it. And the keto meter that I use and that I recommend is an expensive one. So if you don't have the money to get the keto meter, we get it. I just want you to have some sort of method to actually document your results. And you need to have something other than the scale. The scale is important. Don't get me wrong. The scale is extremely important, but in my opinion, is not as important as this keto meter, because our goal is to lower our insulin down as much as we can, because as we're going to discuss, the insulin is the problem that we're all facing today. We are metabolically sick because of elevation of insulin. And we're going to talk about how we get there. How did we get the elevation of insulin? And then more importantly, how do we get it down? When we get it down and you know the techniques, you'll know the benefit of that keto. If you're in ketosis, your insulin level is down and you've activated a bunch of systems in your body that are good systems. And so we want to talk about that and discuss that. And then I'm going to talk to you and I want you to get involved with me. For those of you who are coming in, again, if you have an appointment for today, I need you to have put your name and your date of birth in the chat box for me, directed towards me, the host and the panelists. And several people did not get the questionnaire. If you fill the questionnaire out, then the next segment is not for you. But if you did not get the questionnaire, the next segment is for you. And as a matter of fact, to get everybody involved, I want everybody to participate in this. Okay, so we got enough quorum now, so I'll go ahead and get started. All right. So I'm going to share my screen, and I hope this works. You see, he always says that. Hope that works. All right, so all right, so let me increase that size of that. This is where we are. This is our education webinar. And as you all know, I always started out that basically the 86% of all chronic diseases are preventable. Did you know that? But now you do. 86% of everything out there, diabetes, high blood pressure. So I had a conversation with my good friend, and I love having these conversations because, you know, it's amazing to me the number of things that doctors take for granted regarding what you guys know. I've taken it for granted for years, thinking that, okay, fine, some things are common sense. And so these patients, they do their reading, and so they know these things. So it's a bad thing, a bad habit that we've gotten into is that we're assuming that you know a lot of stuff. We're assuming that you know how to cure type 2 diabetes because it's a fairly simple solution. We're assuming that you know that high blood pressure doesn't have to be there. When your doctor calls it essential high blood pressure and gives you a pill to take, and then 2 pills to take, then 3 pills to take, we're assuming that You just want to take pills and you don't want to do the things that get rid of that high blood pressure on your own. We're assuming that, yeah, they just want to take a pill. But what I'm finding out when I talk to more and more you one-on-one is that you don't know this stuff. And it is not your fault that you don't know. It is actually our fault. And so that's what this channel is for, is to educate you on the things that I'm assuming that you know, but you really, really don't know. And that's an eye opener for me. And it's an eye opener for a lot of physicians. As I give my talks to the physicians, I'm going to include that information. I'm going to include the information that our patients don't know. Our patients don't know that they can prevent cancer. Our patients don't know that they can prevent and treat high blood pressure without a pill. Patients don't know that they can cure their type 2 diabetes without medicine. And so when you come to our office and you say, Doc, my hemoglobin A1C is elevated from my last doctor, so he had me on metformin and he had me said I maybe having to start some insulin pretty soon. The new doctor that you're going to just assumes that, okay, fine, you've established that you have type 2 diabetes, you know what it is, and you're taking treatment for it, and you just want to continue the treatment. You don't want to do that. You don't want to continue the treatment. You want to ask that doctor, is there any way out of this rat race? Is there any way out of me taking more and more and more medicine for the rest of my life? That's how you want to start. Start your relationship with your doctor fresh and start asking them questions. Hey, doc, is there another alternative other than me being stuck on medicine after medicine after medicine? Okay, let's start that conversation, okay? Because 86% of all diseases are preventable. My goal is to get you intellectually engaged. That's what this is all about. And engaged in a future result. What's that future result? You being healthy. You not having diabetes, you not having high blood pressure, you not having arthritis, you not having gout. That was one of the patients that I talked to, had the problem with gout, thought that gout was just, hey, it just came on. My grandmama had it and I got it. And so I guess it's just one of those things. And I need some allopurinol, and they gave me some allopurinol. It helps, it doesn't cure it. They had no clue that gout came from inflammation in your body caused by insulin. Once I started them on the low carb lifestyle, decreasing the insulin, the gout got better. And I have a good promise to these folks is that I can pretty much, not me, but the things that I'm teaching you can pretty much get you back to where this gout is controlled and you're never suffering from pain again. Okay. So those are things that, again, are mind-boggling to me because, you know, we've had tunnel vision, us doctors. So trust me, I'm telling you, Mike, right now, I'm on a confession here today. It is our fault. And please pardon me. Please excuse us for that. But it is my goal not only to actually educate you, but to educate my peers too. I give many, many conferences and many, many talks. You know, I write many chapters and many periodicals. And so I'm a leading person that actually can educate my peers. And that is my goal to do as well. So I'm going to educate them as well as educate you guys. I'm going to have my chat box over so I can make sure that everybody is coming in. All righty. All right. So I'm going to read some of these things as I come along so I don't get too far behind on the chat box. If I don't do this, I'll get behind. I was just had an appointment with Dr. J on Thursday, and I'm losing weight and not gaining, but I can't seem to get above 5 on my meter. My surgery is scheduled for May the 3rd. Good question. We're going to address that. All right. All right. So I think that everybody is here that's going to be here today. And Vance, you can see that number there, and that number is, we need to improve that number. One of the things I'm going to tell you guys is that I want to get you all involved with getting other people here. But before we get that, I'm going to show you a slide that allows you to follow me on Instagram, and I'm going to post it in the chat box so that you can follow us on Instagram, have your friends follow us on Instagram, and so that they can receive this. To me, this is life-changing information. Because when a light bulb goes off in my head and I say, my patients don't know that. And if they did know that, they could use that information and dramatically impact their lives. So that's what I'm about to give you. And I'm going to give you that in different formats and different topics every single week. Some week we'll talk about your cholesterol, your triglyceride. Some week we'll talk about your back pain. Some week we'll talk about your diabetes. The things that you're going to say, aha, I didn't know that. Those are the things that are going to increase your education points. Because one of the quotes, and I meant to make a slide out of it, from Benjamin Franklin, my favorite quote, is that when people come to this webinar and they come one time and say, yep, doc, I went to your webinar, it was good. I learned a lot, but I hadn't been back. So people think that I want them to only come one time because of their insurance requirements. That's not what I want. I want you to come back over and over because this is a school. This is something that you need to repeat over and over again because of this quote. All right, this quote says, tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I'll learn. Right? So that's what's going on with my patients. When I tell them, even when I tell them at the time of their pre-op and their office visits, they tell them it goes in one ear and out the other. Tell me and I forget. And they do, because 50% of my patients are regaining the weight after a life-saving surgery, 50%. So I told them and they forget. Teach me, which is a part of what we're doing now, and you'll remember. That's better, but the best part is involve me, and I'll learn. So these webinars are going to be about you and I becoming involved with one another. And when you do it over and over and over again, just like you go to school and just like your professor or your teacher or your 12th grade teacher gives you your homework, you're getting involved. I'm going to give you homework, and basically that homework is going to be our involvement and our engagement together. All right, let me get through this. For those of you who did not get the questionnaire, who did not fill out the questionnaire, I'm going to need you to go through this particular slide. I'm going to ask you several questions. So get a pencil and paper for me. And basically with this pencil and paper, I want you to write these things down. Give me the answer. And then I'm going to direct you to where to send this information. All right. What did you eat for the last couple of days? This is one of my favorite questions. What did you eat? Because I want to see if you're indeed in sync with what I'm in sync with. Most of you are not, and that's a good thing because it gives me something to talk about. So, and I need something to talk about because we got to talk here for an hour. So most of you are not, all right? And so I need to know what you ate yesterday. Did you do what your personal trainer or so many personal trainers tell you to do? Did you eat 6 meals a day? And if you did, that's okay. This is a part of the learning process. I need to know where you are so we can know where we're going. Okay? So, let's see. Tell me what you ate for yesterday and the day before. Did you eat 3 meals a day? Did you eat 2 meals a day? Did you eat only 1 meal a day? Okay. All right. Number 2. Thank you. How many grams of carbohydrates did you take in the last couple of days? That's probably the most important question on there. How many grams of carbohydrates did you take in for the last couple of days? If you know the number of grams of carbohydrates because you looked on a box, that's cool. You can see the grams of carbohydrates, the grams of fat, the calories, the grams of protein, and all the other ingredients on the boxes. But the challenging thing is how many grams of carbohydrates do you get in a bushel of corn or in a bushel of lettuce or a bushel of asparagus? Those are more difficult to calculate. And so I'm going to involve you and give you that as a task on your homework. You need to Google that and look that up. How do you calculate, Mr. Google, how do you calculate the number of grams of carbohydrates in produce, for instance? The grams of the boxes is a gimme. It tells you how many grams in a serving. And a lot of you will, if you eat 1 cookie, if you eat 1 bowl of rice, you all know how many grams of carbohydrates you're taking in for that bowl of rice. If you don't, that's what that information on the side of the box is there for. Okay. Number 3, check your keto meter results. And I want everybody today to give me their keto meter results in the chat box. Okay. But for those of you who are filling this particular questionnaire out, write it down because you're going to send this as a text message to Elaine or as an email. Got to get hydrated here. All right. Okay. Okay. I was diagnosed with diabetes in September 2022 with a hemoglobin A1C of 7.8. I started this lifestyle and hemoglobin A1C is down to 5.2, and I haven't even done my surgery yet. Congratulations. That is wonderful. And I want to share that information because I want to share some of the ways to do exactly that because it's doable. And so she had diabetes and her hemoglobin A1C is down to normal. So diabetes wasn't a thing that she was cursed with that she's going to be with the rest of her life. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. Alrighty. So we send some people in eggs and oatmeal. We'll talk about that. Fish, chicken, and cabbage. I ate 2 meals a day, and that's all I eat. Good. All right. Somebody has a ketone meter of 8.5. We're getting there, huh? I'm not home today, but yesterday it was 7. Great. All right. All right, keto meter. Document your exercise for the last couple of days. What kind of exercise did you do? Did you get on the treadmill for an hour? Did you walk? Did you do some Zumba? Did you do some kickboxing? Or did you do some resistance training? All of those things are great exercises. But I'm going to tell you something during this session that's going to blow your mind. Because a lot of you say, okay, fine, yeah, I can get this weight off on my own. Or I've tried it and I know that I have great results when I exercise. I'm going to tell you something about exercise that you probably didn't know, but I think it'll be eye-opening for you. All right. Let's see. That was number 4. Let's see, number 5. Give me your height and your weight on this piece of paper that you're getting ready to send in. And all 5 of those things, I want you to email that to ebotino@peachtreebariatrics.com. ebotino@peachtreebariatrics.com. Okay. Give you a few seconds to leave that up there for a minute. People here. And let's see, look back over again. Every time you see me looking away from the middle of the screen, I'm looking at the chat box. All right, workout for an hour with Body by Ted. Okay, I got to look that up. How do you feel about appetite suppressants? Well, most of the things that we're using as far as injections and things of that nature are indeed appetite suppressants. I don't like the ones that suppress your appetite by increasing your metabolic rate, like phentermine. I'm not really crazy about those because for the most part, the people who are here can be metabolically sick. And metabolically sick means that they can have heart issues that may not be diagnosed. And so if you go into a situation where you're taking something that increases your heart rate or your force or your work of your heart, you may be damaging yourself and not know it. Okay. Ebotino. How do you spell it? Ebotino. So here it is right here on the slide. And maybe hope you're not driving. Ebotino, BOTTINO @peachtreebariatrics.com. All right. So again, the appetite suppressants that we give, like Mounjaro, Wegovy, Ozempic, are the things that stimulate your own body's response and feeds back to your hypothalamus of your brain, like GLP-1 agonists. That's what Wegovy is. That's what Mounjaro is. That naturally stimulates your GLP-1 receptors in your gut. That feeds back to your brain. It increases your metabolism, but it increases your metabolism naturally. It doesn't necessarily increase your heart rate at all, but it increases your body's cellular metabolism, and it feeds back to your brain and tells you you're not hungry. That's why we like it. So that's what I call it, the safe appetite suppressant. Okay, go to the next slide. All righty, this is the keto meter. Let me see. And you can see it's expensive, but it's one of the best tools one of the best investments that you can make. There are keto sticks that you take out of your blood. I don't like the urine keto sticks. Let me get that right out there, because they can give you false negatives later on in your ketotic process. All right. This will give you a good result, and the keto sticks that you stick with your finger will give you a good result as well. You're measuring acetone in the breath with this machine. You're measuring beta hydroxybutyrate in the blood with the blood machine. Okay. Let me see if I have on the next one. So this is the keto scan mini keto meter. This is the link for it. So I'm just learning how to do these links. My buddies are teaching me how to become tech savvy here, but you know, I'm getting there slowly. Let me see if I can put that in the chat box. Let's see. I'm gonna stop the slideshow for a second in the show and basically see if I can. You may see me doing some things here I'm not used to doing, so I'm just trying to put some of this stuff into the chat box. By the time I finish doing it, everybody would probably have it already. Paste that. All right. So everybody give me a round of applause for being able to do that, okay? Because I tell you, I wasn't able to do before. That's the keto meter. You can get that link. Thank you. Get that link and basically, all right, so let me try one other thing. Let me see here. I also have, let me see. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. And I'm gonna share this thing one more time. Share the screen. See if I can do that one. I'll do this one. Resume share. See, if I do too much, I get into trouble. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to try to share it again, share screen. Try not to get in trouble here. I'm going to share that. So it won't let me do that. Stop sharing. The screen sharing is paused. Stop. All right, let me go back to what I know. All right, so this is where I was before, and it didn't let me do the other one. Because I wanted to get one. I'm going to put one slide in here for you if I can. Everybody still with me? So this particular, I'm going to put, this is how you follow us on Instagram. So I'm going to copy this and put this in the chat box. So you can begin to follow me on Instagram. I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to go to the chat box and paste that. How'd I do, Vance? Did I do okay? Okay. So this is the probably one of the most important things, because when I sit down and talk to my team, I find out how much they don't know. Then I'm saying, let me magnify that by millions, primarily because that means that there are millions of people, and especially here where I am right now, the Hispanic population, the Black and brown population, and some of the white population, they just don't know of these metabolic problems that are curable, but that we're just kind of surfacing over every single day. So if you can go ahead and get your friends to come to and follow us on Instagram, I will give them information that'll blow their mind, because all of this stuff that you're doing right now, taking medicines, is really not what I want you to, where I want you to be. So I want you to begin having conversations with your physician, because what I'm going to tell you today, I don't want you to take it as medical advice, and that's my disclaimer. Don't take it as medical advice. I'm giving you information, and I want you to take that information back to your physician and start having a conversation with your physician and ask your physician, hey, doc, is there any other way that I can get this problem resolved without taking that pill, or without taking that insulin shot, or without worsening my life over the period of years? Ask the doctor that. Once you begin to ask them, then it goes to their mind like it went to my mind that, wow, my patients don't really know that. And so it opens up their eyes too. So it's a win-win situation for both, okay? All right, let me get off that soapbox and get going here. Let me open the chat box back up. I see a keto meter of 43.99. Is that okay? Yeah, that's a little high, but so let me ask you, with that information that you have, 43.99, the keto meter results that I like you to have is between 10 and 40. Okay. So when you get to 43.99, you are really, really, you may want to repeat that because I've never seen one that high before. All right. This is the link for the keto scan. And this is the level I was talking about. So you're at optimal level of keto scan. So this particular level where you're at 10 is between 10 and 40 parts per million. Okay. So at 10 to 40 parts per million, you're burning fat at a reasonable rate. How much fat can you do? So basically, I'm not going to go to this. I'm going to go to the main slide because you all know the answer to this, right? Weight that we're getting on the scale today. The reason that I want you to get this keto meter is that when you just use your scale and you say, I've lost 10 pounds, because that's what my good buddy told me. I lost 40 pounds. But I asked him, 40 pounds of what? Didn't really know because he didn't have the keto meter. So if you lost 40 pounds, and it took him a long time to lose 40 pounds, I'm telling it on you, it took me a long time to lose that 40 pounds. And of that 40 pounds that he lost, that he was very, very proud of, he didn't know what he lost because weight on the scale consists of these 4 items: bone, water, muscle, and fat. Bone, water, muscle, and fat. You've lost 40 pounds of what? Because if you lost 40 pounds, if you lost 20 pounds of water and 20 pounds of muscle, you have done yourself no good. So the only way that you're going to know that you've lost 40 pounds of fat, because that's all we want to do, because if you lose water and muscle, you just gotten sicker. You will look sicker too. People will say, Jesus, I don't want to have that shirt. I don't want to do what you're doing. You don't look good, and you won't feel good either. You lose water, muscle, and lastly, bone, which takes a little while to lose the bone, obviously. But if you begin to lose water, muscle, and bone, you're going to increase your aging, increase your inflammation in your body, and you're going to be taking all these steps backwards. So it's important. It's important that you know what it is that you're losing, and you can't know that. You just can't with the scale alone. Somebody says they can barely hear me. Let me make sure. Can everybody hear me okay? Somebody says they can barely hear you, Dr. Duncan. Okay. Everybody, if people can't hear me, let me know, because okay, everybody else is hearing me okay. So, all right, I'll keep going then. I just want to make sure I'm not talking to myself. All right, so this is our diagram. This is the GLP-1 thing that we're trying to stimulate. And I want you to do I want you to know what GLP-1 is, because that's what we're going to be talking about. So going back for a second, because I don't think I finished that point, going back to why it's important for you to get the keto meter. Now, you don't have to get that most expensive kind. There are even some that are more expensive than that. You can just get the keto sticks that you stick your blood with. I think they're $35. But it's important because, like I said, when I had this conversation, and I'm having these conversations, I'll be having these conversations with you guys as well, because I want to be involved with you. I don't want you to tell me what it is on your mind. So when I have these conversations with you, and I had the conversation yesterday with my friend, and he said he lost 40 pounds. What, 40 pounds of what? Didn't know. So he didn't know whether he was better or worse. So it's important to know. It's important to know. Just like it's important for him. He told me it was important for me to know what my credit score was. He says, how do you not know what your credit score is? So we as physicians are thinking the same thing. How do you not know what it is that you're losing? Because it's important for you to know. You lost 40 pounds, you lost 40 pounds of what? That's going to be my next question. And the only way you're going to know that you've lost the cytotoxic fat is that if you have a keto meter, it means that you're burning fat. So what is ketosis? Ketosis means that you've tapped into your fat stores and now you're burning your fat stores. And that results in the production of ketones. If you're not producing ketones at a level above 10, you're not burning enough of your fat. And like I promised you, I want to tell you something that blows your mind about the exercise, because it blew his mind. And I didn't know that people didn't know. And that's why we're here. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through these slides. These are important. A lot of you are here for the surgery. A lot of you are here just to hear about what can I do short of surgery. We have some non-surgical procedures like the ESG. We have the intragastric balloon. We have the medical weight loss. But all of these things are just tools, and they will not work unless we incorporate the learning process. And that's why I want to get you all involved. So right now, I'm in question and answer period. So some of the questions that I have for you, because this is going to be the slide that I'm going to explain as to why we have to keep our insulin levels down low. And what keeps our insulin levels down low is keeping our carbohydrates down low. So the whole point of this is so that you get to think and use this, so that, because like we just talked about, if I just tell you what to eat, if I just tell you what to do, it'll go in one ear out the other. You'll do it for a period of time, then you'll stop because you didn't understand what's going on. You didn't understand the mechanics of it. And so most of the time it's been shown, when you don't understand the mechanics of something, or you don't understand the physiology of something, you'll do it because I told you to, but then you'll stop. And that's been verified over and over again. And even with me clinically, it's been verified with my patients regaining their weight. 50% of them go through a life-changing surgery and regain the weight. All right. So I'm not going to ask how much you weigh, but I want people to give me some sort of idea of some of the things I commonly ask. You can store a certain number of grams of carbohydrates. And that was the reason I asked you these questions. You can store your carbohydrates. Carbohydrates get turned into fat. Okay, I'm going to say that. So I'm going to basically tell you how, based upon this slide. Carbohydrates can go and get stored as fat. How do we store it as fat? We always store it as triglyceride. So the foods that we eat, the fat that we eat gets stored into this little fat cell as triglyceride. And so I'm going to go through that. But first of all, let me ask the question: how many grams of carbohydrates can we store on a day-to-day basis in our liver? Now, we store a lot of carbohydrates in our muscle. I don't count those, because as soon as you put them in your muscle, you're going to use them, because we're all using our muscles every single day. Even when we're not exercising, the act of breathing, I'm using my diaphragm muscles. So I'm using that muscle. So that glycogen that goes into your muscle is utilized right away. So it doesn't count as storage for the most part. There are some storage in the muscle, but it's not what I'm trying to get you to understand. So everybody's getting the answer correctly. And they're saying that you can store 100 grams of carbohydrates per day. Well, let's blow your mind a little bit. All right. So you store 100 grams of carbohydrates per day. 100 grams of carbohydrates gives you enough energy to do a couple of things. All right. So if you're going on your treadmill and you're thinking, okay, fine, I'm going to eat whatever I want to do. I'm going to eat this cheeseburger and then I'm going to burn it off tomorrow. Tell me, if most of you who work out and you're measuring your number of calories that you burn, how many calories when you personally work out, how many calories do you typically burn in an hour when you're on the treadmill or when you're running and jogging? You all have these little Fitbits and all these things on your wrist. All of you pretty much have an idea as to how many calories you burn when you exercise. So if you can put it in the chat box for me, let's become engaged and tell me how many calories you typically burn when you exercise. If you exercise, if you don't, then this is going to even be more important to you. Okay. All right. So some people say they burn about 75 calories. That's the only one I see. Or is that the answer to the previous question? I'm going to sit and wait on you because I want to become involved with you guys. I want you to not just to hear me talk. I want you to I actually want you to learn from me, okay? And learn with me. How many calories do you burn when you exercise? And how long do you exercise? And when you exercise once a week, you exercise twice a week, 3 times a week, or do you exercise once a month, or do you not exercise at all? 300 calories, 450. I just checked the fitness. Okay, good. 300 calories, 200 calories. I appreciate that. Let me just hear a few more numbers, 250 calories. All right. So you have that, so you burn when you exercise, and so you think that's pretty good, right? 250 calories to 450 calories is a good thing, correct? It depends. It depends upon what you're eating. All right, so you eat that cheeseburger, and so you're taking in a lot more. So what do we typically take in the standard American diet on a day-to-day basis? We know that the liver can hold 100 grams, but the number of grams we typically take in is what? I'm going to tell you the answer. The answer is anywhere between 300 to 500 grams per day. Okay. The standard American diet is taking up between 300 to 500 grams of carbohydrates per day. I'm going to get you to reduce that, and this is the reason why. Your liver can only hold 100. How many of people are taking in 500 grams a day, and the liver can only hold 100? That means that they're taking in 400 grams of excess. They have no idea what's going on with that excess that they're taking in. I think that they're just kind of sweating it away. Or you think that you're just peeing it out? Are you pooping it out? No, your body takes that excess carbohydrates and it stores it by this mechanism right here that we're going to discuss. Okay. So, but to do the math, if you're taking in 400 calories and you stored it as fat, it's okay because you can burn it off, right? You can burn it off on that treadmill that you're going to work out on tomorrow. You're going to burn 300 calories is the average, right? So in your liver, if you have 100 grams of carbohydrates, let's just get your little pencil and paper and do some calculations. How many calories are in a gram of carbohydrate? How many calories? So 4 calories per gram, right? 4 calories per gram. So we got about 400 calories in our liver. You got 100 grams of carbohydrates that your liver can store. The rest of it is going to fat. We hadn't gotten there yet. We have 100 grams in your liver, and 100 grams of carbohydrates times 4 calories per gram is 400. Basic math, okay? Now, what did you just tell me? So the fat, say, let's do some calculations. So get your pencil and paper out. Say if you weigh 250 pounds, I'm not sure what you weigh, but for the most part, say you weigh 250 pounds. Some of you weigh more than that. Some of you weigh less than that, okay? If you are obese, then that means that your body fat percentage is around about 30%. Healthy for me is between 8 to 15% body fat. Healthy for a woman is around about 10 to 20% body fat, all right? But if you're obese, you're in that range of 30 to 35% body fat. All right, if you're more than obese, morbidly obese, BMI of 40, you're about 40 to 50% body fat. What am I getting at? Let's take 250 pounds. That's going to be in the range of a BMI of greater than 40. So what did I just say? You have a BMI greater than 40. You're 40% body fat. What is 40% of 250 pounds? 40% of 250 pounds, do the math, is 100 pounds. So you're theoretically carrying 100 pounds of fat out of that 250. Out of the 250 pounds that you weigh, 100 pounds of that is fat. It's not good, but that's what it is. Let's take the numbers. So fat has 9 calories per gram, right? Fat has 9 calories per gram. And if you want to, all of you pretty much have seen it on the internet and all that, there are 3,500 calories per pound of body fat. That's something that you can find on any website. How many calories are in a pound of body fat? Okay. So 3,500 calories per pound of body fat. All right. So if you weigh 250 pounds and 100 of those pounds are pure fat, and then you got 3,500 calories per pound. 3,500 calories times 100. It's 350,000 calories that you have stored in your body. Keep that number in your head. You have 350,000 calories that you got to burn. All right. And in your liver, what do we say? Let me just ask, because I'm talking. I'm not sure if y'all still engaged. How many calories do we have stored in that 100 grams in our liver? Make sure you're working with me. How many? We got 100 grams, 4 calories per grams. So we have 400 calories in our liver, right? Right? 400 calories, right? So when you got on that treadmill yesterday and you worked out for an hour and you burned 300 calories or 400 calories, you just touched the energy in your liver. You just burn the carbohydrate in your liver because the body's going to burn the carbohydrates first. So that hour on the treadmill, you just touched the liver. You did not touch 1 ounce of that 350,000 calories, or somebody put in there 500,000 calories in your fat stores. So for those of you who are working out and every hour and you're taking in carbohydrates as a part of your daily thing, you're not touching your fat. That's the point of this story. Maybe not, I didn't make it as plainly, but I'm going to try to make it even more plain. For a 250-pound person who has 100 pounds of fat with a BMI greater than 40, they have 350,000 calories in storage in their fat stores. But your body's not going to touch that until you burn the primary source of fuel first. And the primary source of fuel is the glycogen in your liver. Your liver can hold 100 grams. You get 4 calories per gram from glucose. That's 400 calories. Okay, but you told me that's all you burn when you work out on the treadmill is 400 calories. So all you've done is burn the glucose in your liver and haven't touched the fat. So for all you folks, the moral of the story is that all of you folks who think that you're exercising your fat away, you're not. You're just not. And I'm sorry to say that, but I found out yesterday that you didn't know that. I found out yesterday that people thought that they would be able to exercise and still eat their cheeseburger, still eat their pasta, still eat what they want to eat. All you're doing is replenishing your glycogen stores in your liver. You're replenishing your 400 calories. And if all you're going to do is work out an hour a day and burn 350 to 400 calories per day, you're not losing an ounce of fat. Okay? You're not losing an ounce of fat. So all this stuff that your personal trainer is telling you doing, do it harder, do it harder. Okay, fine, burn 500 calories. Then so you just touched a little smidget of your 350,000 calories. Okay, so I thought I'd bring that out because that's what I'm trying to get over to you, right? All right. How do we get the fat there in the first place? Well, we got the fat there in the first place because we're eating that cheeseburger, or that cheeseburger goes into the fat as phospholipids, triglyceride, and whatever. But the triglyceride has to be stored in this fat globule. And that's what you're seeing every single day. That's what you're seeing. That's that 350,000 calories of excess that we have on our body. How do you get there? Well, that triglyceride has to be broken down because the whole molecule of triglyceride cannot penetrate the cell wall. It has to be broken down. There's a moral to this story too, so bear with me. So it's broken down into fatty acids and glycerol. Fatty acids is what I want. Fatty acids is that thing that immediately goes into the Krebs cycle. It gives me the energy that I'm producing right now. Right now, I'm waving my arms. I'm raising and lowering my voice. That's energy that has to be, and that energy is being supplied by these fatty acids. That's one of the main things that goes into our Krebs cycle that produces ATP, our energy. All right, but right now we don't want to use it. After when we're eating a cheeseburger, or when we're eating some cereal, or when we're eating a bagel or whatever, we're sitting down. And we're going to store those fatty acids into our fat. That's what immediately goes into our fat. When we eat, we store it, but our body is meant to store it so we can use it in a few hours later, or at best the next day. We've got to use it by the next day. Otherwise, it just sits there and sits there. But in order for fatty acids to get in there, fatty acids are broken down the triglyceride is broken down to glycerol and fatty acids. Fatty acids can then get into the cell. Or if you're eating while you're running, or if you're eating while you're cycling, then the fatty acids will be immediately used as energy and it won't go into your cell. But if you're not running and eating, then it's going to be stored into your fat. But the fatty acids can go in and out because they're very, very tiny molecules and they can go in and out of the cell. But if I want to store them, I got to have it married back to the glycerol. The glycerol can't get in. It's too big of a molecule. It has to get through this mechanism, this door, and it has to be opened by what's called the GLUT4 transporter. So this door gets the big molecules of glucose inside. Once glucose gets inside, it gets immediately converted to glycerol. Glycerol is nothing but a form of glucose. And so glycerol then is seen, it sees its buddy fatty acids, and then they marry and it becomes triglyceride, and boom, the fat is in the fat cell where your body wants it, okay? And on top of that, you can see this red, this particular product, hormone-sensitive lipase, when we want to use the fat, we have to break the fat back down into glycerol and fatty acids, and that's what hormone-sensitive lipase does. Now, the reason I got these arrows and that X there is this, is that these mechanisms cannot occur without insulin. So insulin promotes the breakdown of triglyceride into its components, and it can promote this door opening, the GLUT4 transporter, in order to get glycerol. So insulin, in other words, pushes fat into the cell. But the red X here says, okay, fine, insulin is only there for storage. It is not there for you to use fat. You cannot burn fat in the face of insulin. Let me say that again. You cannot burn fat in the face of insulin. Because why? Because insulin blocks hormone-sensitive lipase. Hormone-sensitive lipase blocks the burning of triglyceride to break it down to fatty acids and glycerol that you can get the fatty acids to go into your Krebs cycle. I know I'm getting a little deep here, but bear with me for 2 more minutes. Okay, so if insulin pushes fat into the fat cell and it blocks the use of fat, your ketone meter is always going to be below 10, always, always. Okay, so what's the secret? The secret is to lower insulin. If you lower insulin, you're basically going to activate hormone-sensitive lipase, which is going to break down fat. And you're going to know you're breaking down fat by your ketone meter. All right, because if you just get on the scale and you say, I lost pounds, I've lost some weight, it could be water, or it could be fat, or it could be muscle, or it could be bone, or it could be all 4, or it could be one of the 4. But you don't know. And the whole point of being here is knowledge. The whole point is knowing. Okay, so let's lower the insulin. How do we lower the insulin? Because when we lower the insulin, we can break down the fat, make our keto meter go off the scale, and we can stop the infusion of fat into the cell, which is what we want to do. We want to keep the fat out of the cell, get it to just make fatty acids, and basically use it as it comes along, okay? How do we do that? We lower the insulin. How do we lower the insulin? Moral of the story, we decrease the carbohydrates. Insulin is the carbohydrate consumption is the #1 stimulus to what? #1 stimulus to what? Okay. Anybody get the answer? Okay. So #1 stimulus to the appetite, yes. What is that? What is all right? So what stimulates insulin? Carbohydrates. All right. So we want to lower our carbohydrate intake. So if we're taking in the typical standard American diet and we're taking in 300, 400 grams of carbohydrate, we want to reduce that. Our liver can only hold 100. So let's make our goal to get down to 100 first. I want you to get down to less than 20 grams a day. So I want you to begin to count your carbs. So you see where that question came from that I asked you in the beginning, how many grams of carbohydrates you're taking a day? Because it's important to know. It's very important to know. Because if you're taking more than 100 grams, you're storing it, and you're taking in too much carbohydrates, that's going to stimulate insulin. And this whole mechanism is going to be initiated when you get this insulin activated. You're going to store fat and you're not going to be able to break it down, is essentially what I'm saying. Okay. So we want to make our original goal. If you're new here to this channel, our original goal is to shoot for the 100. We only want to take 100 grams in a day. But then I'm going to quickly take you from there and wean you down to 75 grams a day. Then a couple of weeks later, I'm going to wean you down to 50 grams a day. And I may keep you there depending upon how you tolerate it. Or some of you may need to go down to 20 grams a day, which is where I am. Okay. I hadn't taken any carbohydrates in for a few days. As a matter of fact, I'm here doing my water fast routine with some patients here, because again, we're talking about autophagy. We're talking about getting rid of all the bad stuff in your body. And that's what autophagy does. But the fastest way to lose the fat is to lower the insulin drastically. How do you lower the insulin drastically? Well, you can fast. And we talk about intermittent fasting, which includes 8-hour fasting. The better one is 12-hour fasting. The better one than that is 16-hour fasting, then 18-hour fasting, then one a day, where you're doing 20-hour fasting, 24-hour fasting. We go through those stages, and that's how I'm going to take you there. And why am I taking it this slow? Is because carbohydrates are addictive. Carbohydrates are like drugs. And if I take it away from you rapidly, you're going to go into withdrawal. And basically, when you go into withdrawal, you're going to get cravings, and I'm going to fail. And I'm going to fail you. So we have to do just like an alcohol addiction or a cocaine addict, that we have to slowly wean you off the carbohydrates. And because you're stimulating your nucleus accumbens, your dopamine release. Let me tell you this quick story that I told my friend yesterday. Basically, again, we know that carbohydrates are addictive. From years ago, or several of our colleagues did studies on rats. It's cruel now, but what they would do is that they would feed rats sugar water, and they would feed rats cocaine. Okay. And so basically the rats obviously preferred the cocaine, right? No. The stimulation of the nucleus accumbens in their dopamine mediated brain, the rats preferred the sugar water. Sugar is more addictive than cocaine. Sugar is more addictive than drugs. One other study that the same group did is a little bit more cruel, but they put a bottle of the sugar water in the cage, and the mice, when they got addicted to the sugar water, they would take it in all the time. They would exercise a little, they would take it in sugar water all the time. Then they supplied an electric shock to the floor. So in order to get to that bottle of sugar water, they had to go across this floor. So when they had the cocaine, this was in a separate case, they had the cocaine, and basically the rats started to go across the electrified floor to get to the cocaine, because the cocaine was addicting. But when the floor became electrified, the rats stopped going for the cocaine bottle. In the other cage, they had the sugar water bottle. So they got the rats addicted to the sugar water bottle, and then the rats would constantly go across the floor, get to the sugar water bottle. Then they electrified the floor. When they electrified the floor, did the rats stop going towards the sugar bottle? No, they didn't. The rats took the pain. They took their pain and went for that sugar bottle over and over and over again. And I can say this is cruel, so forgive me for telling you the story, but this is the science that they did back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. They then increased the shock level. And the rats would go after that sugar bottle to the point that they were almost shocked to death. Near death, they would go for that. That's how addicting sugar is. That's how addicting carbohydrates are. And that's how the food industry has captured us. They have their scientists pegging all of these things to see, and they're doing these studies of MRIs where they're seeing how much our nucleus accumbens light up with every ingredient that they add. The more the nucleus accumbens in the hypothalamus lights up, in the brain lights up, the more addictive that particular product is. So they're adding more and more sugars, adding more and more processed, and they're looking in the rats, and they're seeing how much the nucleus accumbens lights up. The more it lights up, the more they can sell the product. So when you get processed foods and you're seeing all these additives in it, that's all that these food scientists are doing. They're making you addicted to the cereals, to the grains, to the breads, to the flour. They're making you addicted. And so my job is to de-addict you, and I have to do it in a scientific approach. I cannot tell you this, man up or woman up and just stop the carbohydrates. Just don't do it. You know it's messing with you. You know it's bad for you. Just stop it. That's dumb on my approach. I cannot do that. I have to wean you off of it because you'll go through withdrawals. I'm going through withdrawals. I went through withdrawals. And so, but basically, I have to replace that dopamine response I was getting with the sugar with something else. And the thing that replaces it best for me is yoga, music, and exercise. That's my own personal thing. Yours may be something else. Yours could be reading, but you get a dopamine response from reading. You get a dopamine response from exercise. You get a dopamine response. So all we're trying to do is replace the bad dopamine responses, i.e. cocaine, alcohol, sugar, sex, drugs, because all those things are unhealthy for you. Not so much about the sex, I don't, but most of those things are unhealthy for you. So let's replace those things that are healthy for you, okay? All right. So let's go over this again. Let me ask you a question. So if you weigh 250 pounds, just to see if you were listening, how many calories do you have stored? I don't expect you to remember the number, but just give me an idea so I'll know that you know the magnitude of what we're talking about. How many calories are stored in your body when you're obese? Ballpark figure, okay? But yeah, 350,000 calories are stored in your body. And you want to burn those, right? You want to burn those. So how many calories of glycogen, which is your first fuel of choice that you're going to do when you exercise, and I'm talking to all you exercise guys, when you exercise, how many calories are stored in your liver? Because you have only 100 grams in your liver. And what do we know about carbohydrates? There are 4 calories per gram. So what do we have? We have 400 calories in our liver. Okay, great. 400 calories, all right? So when we're exercising, what are we burning? That's 400 calories, right? And to recap, have we touched the fat at all? Have we touched that 350,000 calories that we stored? No, not one bit. So I always tell people, but I made the mistake of thinking that, yeah, this is just common sense. They already know this. But my friend told me that, no, doc, it's not common sense. We don't know that. I thought, okay, fine. Because I've always told people that exercise accounts for, yeah, you're getting your heart together and it accounts, if you start doing resistance training, it accounts for 10% of weight loss, sometimes a little bit less. And this is the science behind that. But people who are constantly being forced into LA Fitness and onto the treadmills thinking that they're doing something towards weight loss, no, you're not. You're doing it at best 10%. Weight loss comes from what you put into your mouth, period. The exercise is important. Please don't get me wrong. Exercise is extremely important because muscle mass, muscle strength, cardiac strength, is extremely important as far as your metabolism and all that. So it's not just one or nothing. It's a conglomeration of everything, okay? So I'm going to wind up here. Now, I want you to now begin to, that's the last of my slides, I believe. I want you to now begin to ask me questions, okay? And I'm going to make sure that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, because I wrote down a few things that he says, no, doc, you got to talk about that. People don't know that. I said, yes, they do. He says, no, they don't. They had no idea that they have greater than 100,000 calories in storage, and we're not touching it by exercise. Okay. All right, let me go to my task. So begin to ask your questions, and I'm going to make sure I covered everything that I wanted to. All right. You burn on the treadmill 400 calories, the rat sugar, the rat addiction. Please don't send me any hate mail because I'll tell you, but I didn't do the study. It wasn't me that did the rat that shocked the rats. I don't know how many of you are sympathetic towards animals. I am, and they stop people from doing the shock studies of rats. But it just goes to show you how addictive sugar is. Okay, rats are willing to die for this sugar. And one patient actually told me while I was here, was it here or on the website, Doc, I'm Hispanic and we were born on rice. If I can't have rice, we might as well just die. I thought they were kidding, but they were actually serious about it because the rice, the pasta, the bread was so addictive, they could not fathom giving it up. And I get it. I get it because it's an addiction. But can you cure addictions? Yes, you can. It's been proven all over. But do you need support? Yes, you do. Can you do it on your own? Some of you can, but most of us can't. Even in the addiction medicine with alcohol and cocaine, most of us, once we are truly addicted, we can't do it on our own. We need AA. We need, what is the other one? Drug Anonymous. We need that support. This is going to be your support. I'm going to be your support. We're going to talk about it. We're going to engage. Eventually, we're going to talk about it live, primarily because I know that the Zoom is a little bit rough because we're communicating now through the chat box. And that's a little bit rough. But right now, until we take it to that next level, it's not too bad. It's decent. Okay. So, but it involves where you're learning, where it's not going in one ear and out the other. It involves me repeating things over and over again. It involves me breaking it down, and it involves you communicating back to me with what I've actually regurgitated to you. Yes, it's very hard to do it on your own. It is very, very hard. And that's why we're going to do it together, because the people who have done it on their own, they've come and they've had the surgery, the lap band, the bypass, the ESG, the sleeve, and they say, okay, I got this. I know what I'm doing. And they go home, and then eventually that addiction will come back. They'll eat a little bit of bread. No, that wasn't so bad. Then they'll eat a little bit of baked potato. That wasn't so bad either. But it's a cumulative effect, and pretty soon you stretch your pouch, everything is back to normal, and you regain your weight. They did it on America's Greatest Losers, or whatever the name of that show was. Everybody lost weight just with exercise and fasting and diet. And then they weren't able to change the lifestyle permanently, and they regained all the way back. So we're talking about a permanent lifestyle change, and you cannot have that without the support. That is why, like I said, one of the things we're working on is where we're having these retreats. And one of the ways that I'm promoting autophagy is this 3-day, 5-day water fast, up to 7-day water fast. Here, I'll be bringing that program to the United States. Now, some people listened to me last week and thought that I already had it in the United States. No, I had to develop it in the United States. It was easier to develop here, primarily because I have a camp. I have basically a 6-bedroom house, and patients come there and they're in a controlled environment. We have a chef, but the chef only doesn't, if you're on a water fast, you don't pay for the chef. The chef is primarily there to, when you come out of the fast, he feeds you eggs and bacon and avocado and in small amounts. So that program works primarily because the first thing you get rid of in a water fast is the fat around your visceral area, the dangerous fat. Okay. Well, that was one other point that I want to make after I finish the water fast point. So the water fast point is that we're losing the dangerous fat, and that dangerous fat is the first that it needs to go. And even then, when you start the refeeding, it has to be a slow process. So the short-term fast, so the 12 hours, the 18 hours, the 20 hours, those are the short-term fasts up to 3 days. Once you go beyond 3 days and you get up to 5 to 7 days, up to 40 days, that's the long-term fast. That has to be supervised. The reason I'm supervising even the short-term fast here is primarily for support, because it's hard. I'm taking people off carbohydrates, I'm weaning them down, and the first 24 hours of a water fast is crucial, primarily because it's the toughest. It's tough for that first 24 hours. You're thinking, oh, I'm going to die, but you're not going to die. And so I get them through that. I get them through with classes, these type of classes, and I'm telling them what's going on in their body. what you're breaking down, what you're doing to your microbiome. You're doing very, very healthy things for your microbiome. And for that person that asked me that question early on, that they're stuck, this is what I'm talking about. You're stuck at a level where you hadn't gotten your keto meter. You've followed all the advice. Your keto meter will not get above 10. Then you got to get the insulin level down as low as it possibly can go. Because if you're eating vegetables, that's me. When I eat a bunch of vegetables and I stay away from everything else carbohydrate wise, but I have to have the vegetables to feed my microbiome, I sometimes will kick myself out of ketosis. Now, most of you won't, but that individual that asked me the question earlier on, that may be you. How do you combat that? You start out with the slow fasting. You start out with an 18-hour fast. Then you start with the 20-hour fast, 1 meal a day. Then you go to a 3-day fast, a 3-day water fast. All right. So you're taking in nothing but water. Now, I want you to do that under my supervision, because the one thing you've got to have are your minerals. You got to have your vitamins. And I don't want you to become deficient in sodium and potassium and other important minerals. So I'd like you to be able to do that with me. Okay. So anytime but you can do every single day, you can do the 18-hour, or you can do the 1 a day, where you're doing the 20-hour fast. What that means is the 20-hour fast is that you stopped eating at 6 p.m. today, and you won't eat again until like 2 o'clock tomorrow. That's okay. That's a 20-hour fast. All right. So then if you don't get that level above 10 at that particular point in time, then you have to go to, a 1-day fast where you're not taking in any food at all for 1 day, and basically a 2-day fast and 3. But you cannot do that all of a sudden. You've got to work your way up for that. Okay, don't want you to do that by yourself without some supervision on our part, especially if you're my patient. Okay. All righty. So let's see, and go through the question and answer. Our phone guest. So somebody asked the question, and this is advances on the line. Somebody asked the question, Vance, is there a group in the Facebook we can join to get knowledge of all this learning? And yes, we are going to start that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to actually put a Facebook page out there for us. My team is developing it, and I'll announce that hopefully by the next week, so that you can all come on this and learn on this Facebook page as well. And then there's a person who says, is there any reason why I can't get my surgery scheduled date yet? Yeah. So I'm going to, all of these questions that you have for me, you can put it into the chat box, and I always let my staff see this chat box. So if there's anybody who's having trouble getting in touch with the office staff, or they're not being able to get pushed along towards their surgery, if you're going to have surgery, then just put that question there. And if I have your email address or your name and your number, then basically they'll be able to get in touch with you and move you along. Will there be a support group on social media? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. I have also began heavy resistance training. Could that be the culprit? No, heavy resistance training is okay. You still got to, building muscle mass increases the metabolism. So I want the muscle mass to stimulate metabolism, because what we're going to do is that all the techniques we have are going to increase your levels of GLP-1 in your body. And GLP-1, for those of you who don't know, is the product that's in semaglutide, Ozempic. Well, you have that in your body naturally. And so rather than getting these expensive things, I sometimes will use it if I need a boost in certain patients, but I try to get you to stimulate your own GLP-1 naturally through these techniques. So if I get you to stimulate your GLP-1 naturally by autophagy, by fasting and things of that nature, lowering your insulin, your GLP-1 feeds back to your brain, and it increases your metabolism. It increases your metabolism. And so when you do resistance training, in addition to stimulating the GLP-1, it's an additive effect. So you're increasing your metabolism. And what does that do? It burns more calories. It burns through the 400 grams you have in your liver, and it begins to touch onto the fat stores as long as you have a calorie deficit. How do you get a calorie deficit? Again, through that fasting. You've got to cut out one meal, and 1 meal at least a day. So if you're eating 3 meals a day, go down to 2. And if you're eating 2 meals a day right now, have those 2 meals a day in a narrow time frame by having your meal from 12 to 6. All right, so you have 18 hours of fasting. So this is a method to the madness. All we're trying to do is to lower that insulin level down as much as possible. That stimulates your GLP-1. In addition to the resistance training, it actually decreases your desire to eat because you're in ketosis and all sort of mechanisms go into effect. It decreases your desire to eat and at the same time increases your metabolism. So if you decrease your desire to eat and you've increased your metabolism, you got a gap there. That gap has to be filled with some sort of caloric expenditure. Where does that come from? Your fat. And that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to those stores. We're trying to get to that 350,000 calories that you've carried around for years. And every single day, you're not tapping into it. You're definitely not tapping into it for exercise. You're definitely not going to tap into it if your personal trainer tells you to eat 6 meals a day. Again, my bad, because I'm thinking some of this stuff has got to make sense to you guys. When y'all come back to me and tell me, my personal trainer tells me you can increase my metabolism by eating 6 meals a day, and that's a must for us to do. No, maybe for the elite athlete, that may be something he needs to do. Maybe for those guys who are playing football, who are running track all day, or riding, 50-mile marathons, maybe for them, they need to eat 6 meals a day. But for us here on this channel that we're actually metabolically sick, no, 6 meals a day will ruin us. Will ruin us because we're keeping our insulin levels up. And insulin does everything on this slide that we talked about, okay? So I'm already down to 1 meal a day. Very good. Is the ESG gastric sleeve on your Instagram the same as the regular sleeve, or is it the same as ESG gastric sleeve on your Instagram the same as the regular sleeve? So the ESG is when I go down. It's not an operation. It's a procedure. I go down and I do the sleeve from inside out. I don't cut anything. I don't cut any. I just close the 2-liter Coke bottle size stomach. If you didn't know that, but your stomach can stretch to the size of a 1.5 to 2-liter Coke bottle. I take that 2-liter Coke bottle and I make it to where it can stretch to more than the size of a banana. So you try to stretch your stomach. You can overpower it if you want to by eating more than, but for the most part, I'm taking a stomach that can expand to 2 liters and I'm putting it down to the size of a banana. It reduces the amount of food that you can take in, making your calorie deficit. And again, you got to do it along with the training here, where you're burning your 400 grams of carbohydrates in your liver first, and then you're tapping into your fat stores. How? By lowering your insulin level so that you could burn that insulin. But if you continue to put food into your mouth and in the form of carbohydrates, you'll never, ever, ever tap into your fat stores. It's impossible. It's impossible. Okay. Yeah. So this is a very good point here. I exercise for 6 months every day, at least 1 hour. I only get endorphin release, and endorphin is that dopamine release, which is a good thing. And I feel so good, but I never lose weight. Why? Well, that's the thing we just talked about, because for 1 hour a day, you're burning 400 calories, and you're burning 400 calories, and that all is coming from the stored glycogen. That 100 grams of glycogen that's in your liver every single day, you replenish your liver with your 100 grams. Whatever you eat, your body has its own way of keeping a certain amount of glycogen in the liver called gluconeogenesis. So there's a certain amount already there. 40, 50 grams already there. Then what you take in as far as carbohydrates, you're basically filling the rest of the liver with glycogen. So when you exercise for an hour, you're burning 400 grams. You're burning 400 calories. That 400 calories is in your liver. But you want to lose the fat. You don't want to lose weight. You want to lose the fat. You hadn't touched the fat, but you're through exercising. You're through exercising after the hour, and you've only touched the carbohydrates stored in your liver. And that's the reason you're not losing the fat. Okay? Can you scroll back and read my question on fasting? Let's see. When I fast longer than 12 to 15 hours per day, I get headaches. Yes. So that's an adaptive thing, because the one thing that you've got to do is to take the vitamins and because when you're fasting, you're not getting your everyday minerals. And there are a lot of minerals that control your vasomotor responses of your vessels and all that. So you got to be sure. And that's why I don't want you to do the prolonged fasting, because people will get headaches, they'll get tired, they'll get fatigued. That's just an adjustment phase. It will go away, but you got to make sure that you keep your mineral and your water levels up. So you got to have your salt, your potassium, you get magnesium. You got to have all those minerals that are important for you to be healthy. So, because when we don't eat food, we're not getting the nutrients. So everybody asks the question, well, isn't fasting dangerous? It can be. It can be if you go a prolonged period of time without taking in the nutrients that you normally would get from food. But water fasting in and of itself, combined with either I give it to you by IV hydration and nutrients in that form, or you take it in the form of, there's a little product that we're going to be coming out with that you add to your water in the form, gives you your minerals and your nutrients. When you have your minerals and your nutrients, the headache will be temporary. It'll go away because you're adding the minerals that you need that causes, because it's a mineral deficiency. It's what you're getting the headache from. All right. And so when you add the minerals and deficiency and the water, the headache will go away. Okay. Hope that answered that question. Once our insurance has given the approval, how long is it approved? It's usually approved for, don't quote me on this, it can be approved for 3 months sometimes up to a year. All right. Do we have to do a liquid diet before gastric bypass surgery? So for how long do you have to do it? So what we try to do is, especially with the higher BMIs, is that, like I said, most of that stuff is stored in your liver. A lot of that stuff, because you have a fatty liver. So we like to, a lot of our surgery is done beneath the liver. We got to lift that liver up. If it's too heavy, it makes the surgery difficult for us. So we go on a fast to try to shrink the liver. So you'll have the office will tell you, I want you to take clear liquids in for a couple of days, and then just take some protein shakes to get prepared. That's what that's all about. All we're trying to do is to shrink your liver. We clean out your bowel in the first few hours of being on a clear liquid diet. But the 2-day clear liquid diet is primarily to decrease the size of your liver. Now, the doctors will tell you that. And if they don't think that you have a heavy liver, in other words, if your BMI is not that great, then they may not tell you to do that. One other point, final point, is that my friend told me that it was an interesting story we were having. And he was telling me how successful he was. And basically he's lost 40 pounds. Okay, so 40 pounds of what he didn't know. But then he started showing me, he said, Doc, I had this friend of mine who's, man, she was a cheerleader in high school and all that. And now she's gotten huge. She weighs about 300 pounds, Doc. So I'm listening. He says, she weighs 300 pounds. And Doc, that's terrible. I'm still listening. Now, this person that's telling me is obese, okay? And he's saying that this person who is quote unquote morbidly obese, well, let's put some numbers to it. He has a body mass index of around about 38, 39, 40. But the person that he showed me the picture of and was telling me the story about probably has a BMI of around about 55. In his mind, as I was listening to him, because I was trying to calculate what he was saying to me, he thought that the woman with the higher BMI was sicker than he was. I said, no. No, the numbers doesn't correlate with sickness. After you get to the BMI of 30, where you're considered to be obese, the reason we define obese is that's when your body gets sick from fat. And there's no degrees of, once you're sick, you're sick. You can get more sick by doing more carbohydrates and all, but the BMI, the number in and of itself doesn't correlate directly with how sick you are. So when he was telling me the story, he was saying, yeah, she needs the help a lot more than I do. No, she didn't. She needed the help, sure. But I don't want people to get that sensation that, yeah, I can lose a little bit of weight on my own and I've lost down to this, I've lost 40 pounds. And so I'm a lot healthier than I was. No, you're still obese. You're still metabolically sick. You may feel a little bit better because you're getting there, but tomorrow you can still have that massive heart attack. Tomorrow, if you're still obese, you can still have that stroke. Tomorrow, you can still have that diabetic complication. As long as you're at that level. So yes, the numbers are important. And to some extent, yes, the more, but I have patients who have body mass indexes of 70 who are healthier than those people who have a body mass index of 35. So there's no direct correlation with how sick you are based upon the number. Okay, so do not think that because you lost a few pounds and your body mass index has come from 45 down to 40, that you're healthier. You're getting healthier, but you're not out of that danger zone until you get that fat out of that level of fat, because the fat that's still there is still causing the inflammation, still causing your cytokines to be released, still causing your C-reactive protein to go, still causing your homocysteine levels to go up. It's still causing you to be sick. Okay, so do not think that you're out of the woods just because you lost a few pounds. And for those people who had the surgery, have gained the weight back, yes, you've gotten metabolically sick, and we need to address that. And these things are going to address that. These webinars are going to address that. And I'm almost out of time. One other point he wanted me to make is that we've become complacent with type 2 diabetes. Everybody thinks that they're getting it because my grandmama had it. Let me stop sharing. And basically, they're thinking that they go to the doctor tells them you need to be on insulin, you need to be on metformin, and so on and so forth. But I'm telling you all these things right now about the dangers of insulin. So again, as a physician, I'm thinking, okay, fine, they've got to know this. They've got to know that if you're a type 2 diabetic, and I'm telling you how insulin is not that great for us, and if you're insulin resistant, and your doctor tells you you need to take an insulin shot, why are people not questioning that? Why are people saying, okay, fine, somebody told me that insulin wasn't that great for you, because insulin up to a certain level is okay, because it pushes the glucose into the cells where it can meet the mitochondria and go. But when you become insulin resistant, because you're pushing too much glucose and making the insulin work too hard, you become insulin resistant. Your body gets tired of it. Your pancreas gets tired of it. Your cells become insulin resistant. And then your doctor treats that with more insulin. I assume that people say, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I'm going to do what my doctor says do. And that's okay, because as you go up on your insulin dose, the amount of insulin that your doctor is giving or somebody's giving you is forcing things into your cell, forcing the glucose into your cell. So your glucose does come down, but it's forcing it. But as you continue to do that, your cells are saying, now you just made me mad. I'm getting more tired. So now your insulin resistance is going to increase. And so what's going to happen the next year? You got to go up on the dose of insulin. You're chasing your tail. Pretty soon you go up higher and higher, and then they add more medicines. They add 2 medicines more, 3 medicines more. You're chasing your tail. You need to begin to question that logic. You need to begin saying, okay, how can I back this up? How can I moonwalk this? You moonwalk it by decreasing the thing that's causing the problem. The thing that's causing the problem is carbohydrates. So you take those carbohydrates down from the 400 grams to 500 grams you're taking every day. You take them down to 100. You give your liver a break, and you take them down to 75 after that. Then you take them down to 50 after that. Then what happens? Your cells become more insulin responsive. You become cured. And it's a miracle. It's not a miracle for me, but I'm assuming that everybody knew that, but that's my point. You didn't know it, and I'm going to teach you more about it, and I'm going to give you more of these aha moments, because as I become more enlightened about the things that you didn't know, trust me, I will share it with you, because I think these are life-changing events. You incorporate these things into your daily habits and in your daily knowledge base, it will be life-changing. Trust me. Okay. All righty. I'm about through here. I'm going to make sure I get all the questions answered. Being the person whose A1C went from 7.8 to 5.2 since September, I wanted to let you know I didn't use any medication, only this lifestyle change. Fantastic. That's what I'm talking about. Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Duncan, for changing my life. Thank you. Thank you for being who you are. I changed my intermittent fasting schedule to end at 6 now. I need to eat a spoonful of protein in the morning. I'm not really hungry, but I have a slight sensation to eat something small. What's going on with me? What should I do to correct this? As you suggested, I've increased my resistance training. Could this be the reason? So the protein that you're taking, if it's in the form of protein powder, that may be a problem, because the protein that you're taking in the form of protein powder, I like you to take it if you're getting ready to have surgery, because I need that protein to help you heal your stomach if I'm going to cut it. But protein powders and protein shakes are not things, not real protein. I want you to get your real protein from food, eggs, cheese, bacon. If you're taking the protein powders, they're a simple form of protein. And once it gets into your intestinal tract, it breaks down into amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks for glucose. It raises your blood insulin levels, and you start in the cycle of the slot that I just showed you. So if you're not perioperative, take out the protein shakes, eat your protein in the form of real food, and see how that does. And indeed, if that doesn't work, then basically go on the fasting protocol with me supervising it or with somebody supervising it if you're going to do longer than 24 hours. Okay. Why has the lady had her surgery yet? She's been waiting since September. These are the questions that I'm going to ask the staff, because trust me, guys, I get on my staff. I'm not complacent with what people are telling me here. The staff knows exactly what's going on after these webinars. And so that's why I encourage y'all to tell me. I feel bad when y'all tell me this, but it's important for me to feel bad because I got to do something about it. All right. All right. Thank you. I'm going from sleeve to bypass, and just listen, I'm going from afraid to encourage. That's what I'm talking about. My mom had surgery with you 4 years ago and only gained 25 pounds. Only gained 25 pounds. How does she do a restart? Well, she comes back to these webinars. We get started with that, and then I'll let me see if I can share the slide that I had. Let me see. Go back to here and go back to the slide. I think I put it in the chat box already. So check the chat box. You'll see this is the Instagram. You start following that. We're going to get the Facebook page. We're going to get all sort of ways that you can increase your learning. And this, I believe, is the Keto Scan Mini. I did have the one for the appointment. I don't know what happened to that one. Let's see. That went somewhere. But check the chat box. And in the chat box, I did put if you want to make the appointment, you can go ahead and make the appointment as well. All right. If you have high cholesterol, eating a lot of eggs, cheese, and bacon continue to elevate the cholesterol after surgery. Yeah. So that's a question that I really, really want to address, because so many people have the misconception of what cholesterol is doing. All right. So no, the answer is, in short, no. The cholesterol that we need from our cholesterol sources, sure. But the bad cholesterol is what everybody's interested in, right? Because that's the one that gives you the heart attacks and strokes. But the bad cholesterol does not come from eating cholesterol in your diet. We got to get into that more, and I don't have time today, but that'll be the topic for next week. The bad cholesterol comes from eating carbohydrates, and I'm going to show you the physiology of that, because I know that doesn't make sense, because everybody thinks that if I eat fat, I'm going to get fat. Or if I eat fat, that fat is going to be in my blood. My triglycerides and cholesterol are going to go up. No, if you eat carbohydrates, it's a misguided thing that's going on with a lot of people. Okay, so people say, okay, I'm just eating some Cheerios. That bowl of Cheerios gives you a higher level of triglyceride than that bacon and eggs. And I'm going to show you how. And you're going to say, wow, I didn't know that. All right. All right. Thank you. I went from 245 to 140. Best thing I ever did. I love it. How long after surgery can you travel? I like you to have you around for at least a week so I can see you back in the office and get your hydration. If you're traveling on the plane, I like it to be at least, 2 weeks to make sure you're not going to have a blood clot while on the plane, especially for a long distance. If you're actually driving, 10 days to 2 weeks, you can drive, but as long as you're getting out of the car and walking every hour. Okay. Do you perform balloon procedures for weight loss? Yes, we do. If yes, is it better than the ESG? No, it's not. And the company knows that I'm going to say that. The company that makes the balloon also makes the product for the ESG. But patients come in if they want the balloon, because it's perfectly fine. But you're going to pay the same amount for the ESG. And I encourage people when they come in and they want the balloon, I usually will talk them into the ESG. Costs the same amount, and the ESG is more permanent. You get more bang for your buck. You get more weight loss. You get more fat loss. And so people like the balloon because It doesn't change any of the anatomy. You just put a balloon inside. It makes you feel full all the time. It makes you feel sick all the time. And so I have to give a lot of nausea medicines and all that. But when I do the ESG, I'm actually making that 2-liter Coke bottle into the size of a banana. And so you will eat less, you'll make a calorie deficit. And if you follow these webinars and do the low carb lifestyle, you will lose just as much fat as you could with a sleeve. But the only problem with ESG, insurance doesn't cover it. It's a self-pay procedure, unfortunately. But the ESG is procedure that needs sutures in the stomach and risk blood clot. How safe is both? Both of the ESG and the balloon are extremely safe, extremely safe. But the one with the most durability is the ESG. The balloon has to come out in 6 months, and almost always, those patients in my particular series, especially for the ones that don't come back for the further teaching, they will regain the weight, and it's a waste of $8,000, $9,000. Is seltzer water safe to drink? 0 calories and no caffeine? Yes, it is. That's what this is. Actually, this is club soda, but it's water. So I don't care how you get your water in, get your water in. As long as it's 0 calorie and 0 carb. Okay. If you had sleep previously, do you think RAG better option than bypass for high BMI? What is RAG? If you had it, that was a typo. If you had sleep previously, do you think that RAG? Yes. So repeat that question again. That was a typo. What does RAG mean? So if you had to sleep previously, do you think RAG is better? Okay. So the ESG, okay. ESG better. So the ESG retightens the sleeve, and that's a good procedure, because if you did have success with the sleeve and you stretched it out because you got into a rut and you were taking some carbs, and I know people eat for different reasons, because some people eat for comfort and all that, and carbohydrates are addictive, and we got to approach all these problems. But if I need to retighten your sleeve, I want to retighten it. But we have 2 procedures for the sleeve patients who regain the weight: the conversion to bypass, which jumpstarts you all over again, but that can be affected by taking in carbohydrates as well. But the procedure I would rather do is to retighten it with the ESG. Okay, because if you had success with the sleeve, retightening it is all you need, with the addition of the process of learning to stay away from the carbs. Okay. I'm going from sleeve to bypass as well, and it's still hard for me to get 64 ounces of water. So while I was talking to you, I've talked to you for an hour and a half now. I've only drank this much water. That's unacceptable for me and for you guys. So I should have done this throughout the hour. If I had done it throughout the hour, I would have had this whole bottle consumed. If I had done it every 5 or 10 minutes. So you got to carry your water with you. You don't need to gulp it down. You cannot get it gulped down. It hurts when it goes down, even in your esophagus. But if you do this every 10 to 15 minutes, you'll get it down. You'll get it down. Just got to try it. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate it. I love the fact that you guys are learning from this. I really appreciate your comments. I really appreciate you guys being here with me. I really hope that you come back and see us next week and every week, because we're going to have more aha moments. Aha moments are crucial because, and trust me, it's my fault. I thought that you all knew a lot of this stuff, but it's so refreshing to know that you don't know, and that I can provide this information for you, and that this information will be so impactful and so empowering for you to make a better life and lifestyle changes. Okay. All right. Y'all have a great weekend. Y'all have a great Saturday, and I'll see you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.